License and registration, he can sense your aggravation.
On the head of the fallen angel.
When the world is muttering under the floorboards, stomp even louder.
Time.
Let them know you are alive today.
Or unhum.
Did you know that your hands came with a ripple effect?
Whisper tones unraveling like silk.
Blood, sweat, and tears win by any means poetry.
Wait, look at me. Is a piece of the pie too good for me?
Some may call it rock the mic. We call it poetry.
Duet of Nature. I heard a bird call, unlike any from my homeland. Waves splash rhythmically along a shoreline, littered only by occasional clusters of seaweed, palm trees, coconuts. I watch and listen as glistening waves crest before reaching shore, as if not to disturb too greatly. She, who alternately holds back and releases the tide. Their dance has endured since the beginning of time. This day, I am blessed to witness their embrace of swirls, splashes, and twirls, each rehearsed for millennia. Such beauty one cannot forget. Mother Earth and Father Time's most soothing duet. Another bird call pulls my mind and eye from shoreline to sky. Perhaps a call to her partner, perhaps to the sea, thanking her for sharing her perfect acts. Hello, and welcome to Sojourn with Words. I'm your host, Sistah Joy, and today we are very pleased to present the new Prince George's County Poet Laureate. Oh, I'm so excited to have Dr. Khadijah Ali Coleman as our guest poet. And as always, we know that we always present the best, but I've got to give some information. Let me share some bio information today about Khadijah. She is certainly one who is well established and well known throughout the literary community, but the bio reads as such. She is the author of the children's book, Mariah's Maracas, and co-editor of the book, Homeschooling Black Children in the United States, Theory, Practice, and Popular Culture. She is a playwright. She has had more than a dozen of her plays presented publicly in venues throughout the country. She has enjoyed residencies and fellowships as a Theater Alliance Quadrant playwright, Fulbright Hayes Scholar, Scholar in Residence at the Prince George's County African American Museum and Cultural Center, and the Maryland State Arts Council Individual Artist Awardee. I'm telling you, this is tough. A multidisciplinary artist, she is the founder of the multidisciplinary arts company, Liberated Muse Arts Group, which she started in 2008. In addition to her work as a multidisciplinary artist, Dr. Ali Coleman is an education researcher and nonprofit administrator. She is the founding director of the education research group, Black Family Homeschool Educators and Scholars, LLC, and currently serves as the executive director of the Hurston Wright Foundation, a nonprofit that has served Black writers for over 30 years. Born in Washington, D.C., another native Washingtonian. Hello, my sister. She lives in Prince George's County, Maryland, with her partner Ben and their 19-year-old daughter, who is a scholar at the University of San Francisco. Khadijah Ali Coleman is the 2023 Poet Laureate of Prince George's County, Maryland. Welcome, Khadijah. Oh my gosh, we are so very happy to have you with us.
I'm so very, very happy to be here with you. And you have just been incredibly gracious and welcoming and wonderful this past month. And I just have enjoyed getting to know you better. And it is a pleasure being here this morning. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And don't leave excited to know that the poetry community is in great hands in that litany of, we're just so thrilled to have you with us here in Prince George's County with the Arts Council. And Khadijah, I know that you bring so much to the table. And we know that you've been immersed in the arts for a very long time, both in an academic setting as well as the artistic arena. And you bring much to the table. So let's start at the beginning. What led you to become engaged in the arts?
I will be honest with just sharing that the arts have really provided a very healing outlet for me. And so in every avenue of my life, being able to express my thoughts and my ideas through different channels, whether it's poetry, whether it's film, even sometimes visual art. And I say that because if you even allude to being a visual artist, people want to see your stuff. But just expression in general and being creative with that expression has just been so life-giving to me. And so it has become a practice and just a very necessary practice in my life. And so I would say I remember very early on, seeing The Wiz, the movie, The Wiz.
Oh, okay.
Not the play, the movie. I was 4 or 5. I remember when my mother took me to the theater to see it. It was packed, so much so that I had to sit on her lap. And seeing Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, and just in my face as a little person, and just seeing the magic of music and dancing, and that just has resonated with me so deeply. And so, I would try on my mother's clothes, put on my own plays. I remember in school being introduced to the idea of a poem, which to me very early was a small story in a very small format, and being just bewildered with why am I just learning about this in 6th grade? And so I began to actively write as a very young person. And so again, it just became part of my practice, and just so life-giving, being able to express and to articulate, give word to how I was feeling became very healing for me.
Okay. Well, what are some of the central themes of your work?
So it's interesting because very early as a child, I attended, fun fact, I say this all the time, but it's fun to me, is that I was born in DC. I grew up in both Prince George's County and Montgomery County. And so for a couple of years of elementary school, I went to a school, Woodland Elementary, and I was in 5th grade with Dave Chappelle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I say that because all I remember of him was that he was very talkative. Like, he had stories, and it's so interesting to see that is what he's known for. And so that was a grade, and that was a school where I think I became aware of my storytelling. And at that school, I started learning about mythology, Greek mythology in particular, and just how mythology was really a people's attempt to make sense of the world around them. And I was very interested in that. And so a lot of my early poems as a child was around creation and the characters of nature becoming a character in my poetry. And so as I've gotten older, I've noticed that a lot of my work, even if I'm speaking, can be political at times, but I use a lot of nature is very inherent in a lot of my poetry, seeds, trees, the wind. And I'm still trying to really examine or reflect on how, to me it's expression, but I'm actually sometimes surprised with how tethered I am to this idea of nature just being like the symbiotic relationship that we have with nature. And I'm still examining, like, wow, even when I write something, like, wow, this seems to be recurring theme in my work.
Well, truly, I found that poetry is a means of self-discovery.
Yes.
And it often manifests in the poetry that we write. And one, it's like feeding upon the other. We're discovering, we're writing, we're revealing, we're guiding. And that's part of the beauty of poetry. I know I was just very immersed in the poem that you shared at the Hyattsville Library the day that you were announced as the new Poet Laureate. I don't know if you're planning to share that one today or not, but it was beautiful. I hope.
Well, I appreciate it. I definitely would like to share that. I wonder if you're speaking of the one about about poets. Why it is, yes. So that was Why We Celebrate Poets. That was written specifically in your honor. The event was honoring you and in the work and service that you've done for our county as a poet, as an artist. And it was the writing prompt for the poem. When we even think of poets as, a lot of times it's someone outside of us, but really poets are of the people. And so that was the inspiration for the piece.
Okay. Well, I know I loved it. I guess it kind of got past me that you wrote it for me, but I know that it was a beautiful poem, and
thank you.
I received it. I definitely received it in my spirit.
Oh.
When you think of poetry, and sometimes it's just there are causes that we gravitate to address through poetry, and of course, here in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area, we're not separated from politics because we're in this fishbowl that we are. But are there particular causes that you find yourself gravitated to when you're addressing issues through poetry?
Well, definitely. As a Black American, every day I feel I feel a lot of the everyday things that we see are very personal, and especially as someone who is a scholar of not just African American history, but history in general. My mother did raise me from a Pan-African perspective for my early life, and so I was really attuned to systems and institutions and just the structure of our society here in the United States and how we are impacted as a group of people. And, a lot of the scholars that have always made an impact on me have been scholars like the late Derek Bell. And it's so ironic now in this time that we are, these conversations around CRT. He's really the person who began to write about this theory, which is a legal theory that now it is translated in some respects into education research, but it's so amazing to me how this has become this topic regarding our schools. But his work really surprisingly, when we even think of my artistic influences, he is a scholar. He was a legal scholar, but a lot of his ideas have influenced my art and the ways that I even reflect on the society, situations that have occurred since I've been alive, but also before, and in his understanding of politics, of systems, of the law, really have deeply influenced how I go about thinking and creating art, as well as when I write as an education scholar.
Okay, okay. Well, who are some of the others who have inspired your work? I know, the politics necessitate that we address some of those issues, but who are some of the others that may have inspired you?
So this is, if we're speaking specifically of artists, I will say I love talking about, I attended a couple of high schools in Prince George's County. I was a vocational student. I took electronics at Crossland High School, but I also attended Friendly High School in Oxon Hill. And at Friendly High School, I had an English teacher by the name of Mr. Ponatowski, who introduced us to Robert Frost. And he had a way of introducing to us things, the classics, quote unquote, where all of us would heave a deep sigh, like, oh, Shakespeare, like, do we really want? But he always presented everything he taught us in such an enthusiastic way. And I remember when he introduced us to Robert Frost and The Road Not Taken. And that changed my life in terms of how I perceived the power of writing, where you could have a poetic piece that could have so many different interpretations based on the eye of the beholder or the sensibilities of the beholder, very similar to visual art. And that, to me, it just electrified me in a way. As I already identified as a writer, but seeing further the power of writing just excited me. And I remember after learning about Robert Frost and Mr. Ponatowski's class, going to the library and getting all of these Robert Frost books out and never quite finding anything that really moved me to the in the way that The Road Not Taken moved me, and Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Those two. Yes, those two poems. But still beginning to build my familiarity with a poet, and that really continued, in my life. And I would say Robert Frost was really the first, but Nikki Giovanni is also one of the early writers. I would say the first poet that my parents introduced me to. They were both students at UDC, the University of District of Columbia, back in the day when it was called Federal City.
College.
And Nikki Giovanni came to campus, and they brought me her book, Spin a Soft Black Song. And so that was the first poetry book I was introduced to as a toddler, and I remembered it. And I remember looking at the pictures, and that really excited me as well. So those two.
Okay, well, I know we want to get to your poetry, and we on a tight timeline, and I could listen to you discuss your journeys for quite longer than we have. But let's speak one thing about what legacy do you wish to leave behind?
Well, I think I'm on track with that, because this person in the picture behind me, homeschooling Black children in the U.S., happens to be my daughter, who is she'll be 20 this year. But I think she is the best legacy that I have to leave behind. She is the best writer ever. She's my favorite writer, and I'm not saying that out of bias. Maybe I am, but she's an incredible writer. She's an incredible filmmaker, and I just am really excited to see what's to come from her in the future, because the things that she's produced and created already has been spectacular, and I've just been very honored to be her mother.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for creating another powerful Black woman. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, now we're going to transition. We're going to hear some poetry by Khadijah Ali Coleman. And I'm going to get out of the way and maybe, well, we have got about 10 minutes. So,
Okay.
Or a little bit less actually, but the floor is yours. Go for the mic.
Okay. Well, this first poem, as you mentioned earlier, I'm the executive director of the Hurston Wright Foundation, which is based in Washington, D.C. And before I became the executive director, I had presented at the Legacy Awards, which is an annual event that Hurston Wright puts on. I had presented a tribute poem to Zora Neale Hurston called Zora Past the Sun. And this is the poem, and it opens with a Black American folk song called Halihmuhfack that folks can actually hear Zora Neale Hurston sing. And if you do a Google, I think the Library of Congress has a recording of her singing it. And so I start and I end with a portion of that in this poem. You may leave and go to Halihmuhfack, but my slow dragger will bring you back. Well, you may go, but this will bring you back. Hilltop high round them clouds and past the sun is where my Zora done gone, strumming tall tales watered high for ripe picking by greedy imaginations and thirsty heart patters still, longing for the lick of her griot tongue to moisten the memories her stories imprint on our souls. Zora is still weaving them words into quilts that wear patterns of Blackness on each colorful square. I hear her laughing, jolly chortles of merciless wisdom capturing the dusky bleakness and wringing it dry until only sun-drenched glazes of merriment decorate the crevices of her tales, warming us wonderful as she beckons us closer. Put your foot up and stay a while, she is sure to whisper, as we are friended close with her latest tale, capturing language in its bare shape, naked and unyielding to the ironic violence of Anglo-pristineness with keys jangling, she splays open the universal cage, holding captive native tongues and dialect, yelling, "Use free now!" And these words, enter her worlds that become our own lands, her people becoming our family. And this process changes us, keeps changing us, shickalacking in furious frenzy as we read, and love and know and become and grow and read and sing and understand that our Zora may be hilltop high round them clouds and past the sun. But we, with our greedy imaginations and thirsty heart patterns, are always there with her. You may leave and go to Halihmuhfack, but my slow dragger will bring you back. Well, you may go, but this will bring you back.
Wonderful, wonderful. Keep going. We want to hear more.
I'm going to share why we celebrate poets. And this was the poem that was inspired by you, Sistah Joy. Why we celebrate poets. Poets are our culture keepers. Wearing the elements of each feeling they encounter, poets code switch between the dialect of the mystic and the commoner. Twirling consonants and vowels into magical brew, turning the chaos of emotions into docile fluidity for a reader or listener to greedily savor. Poets document each moment with a sculptor's precision, arranging words into communal memory, slicking soft the ragged edges of trauma and cruelty, decorating the moments of joy and recovery. Poets greet our senses with lingering familiarity. The beings who hold the poet's spirit within our community's soul, they feel the sounds, taste the textures, hear the colors, and witness the loudness and quiet of each corner of humanity. They bear the humility of our failings and the laughter of our triumphs, sweeping the crevices of the mundane to find the treasured moments that matter. The cellular root of our culture's blood are our poets, in motion, witnessing the whirling wonder of our future, our present, our past. Their decoded messages live forever beyond their breath.
Snaps and claps. Snaps and claps. Absolutely. Thank you. Love that. So for all the poets out there, for all the poets, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Oh, we've got just under 5 more minutes. What do you have for us to wrap us out? Maybe 2 more pieces?
Okay, I have a poem that I enjoy sharing, and I believe I'm going to be publishing this. It'll be the title of a poetry book that I'll have coming out soon, and it's called For the Girls Who Do Too Much. For the girls who do too much, who check on folks, who hold space for others, love easily, express freely, hurt harder, fall quietly, weep softly. May you wrap your wonder around yourself, breathe in your beauty when others spill their attention on those less deserving. May you caress your own sensitive soul by remembering to tend to your blooming magic and always adorning your spirit with kind words and reminding your heart each day that you matter. You matter. You matter.
Oh, how beautiful is that?
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have maybe a very short closeout poem? I do have some information I want to request of you, like how our viewers can be in touch with you at Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council in your position as County Poet Laureate.
Okay.
2 minutes. So if you have like a real short something, and then we'll go to that.
I think that was probably my shortest something.
Okay, well then why don't we go ahead and tend to the business at hand?
Okay.
As Poet Laureate for your next 4 years, is it 3 years or 4 years?
3 years.
For the next 3 years, Dr. Khadijah Ali Coleman is the Poet Laureate. That means she is the poet for the people of Prince George's County. And she's going to be initiating all types of programs and activities. So for folks that want to be in touch with you, how can they reach you?
That is a great question. I just became official yesterday with my email, and I want to make sure, maybe you can help me out, Sistah Joy. It is Khadijah, which is KHADIJAH, and at PGAHC. Yes.
.org. All right.
That's it.
Okay. And I'm sure that there will be updates to the Poet Laureate webpage on the pgahc.org website.
Yes. We're in the process right now of exchanging ideas on what those updates are. And as I had opened with, I appreciate everything that you've been doing so far with this transition. Sistah Joy, just really making it easy and seamless for me. So I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're thrilled to have a new Poet Laureate for Prince George's County, and Khadijah Ali Coleman is that person of power, because she who holds the pen holds the power.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that all of our viewers pick up a pen from time to time, and of course, always keep writing. Thank you so much for being our guest poet today, Khadijah Ali Coleman. Don't be a stranger, and let our viewers here on Sojourn with Words know what's happening. And there is a Facebook Sojourn with Words page that I hope you'll contribute to in the future as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. Really just all about the money.